here, this is the third section that I want to wrap up with today, and this is creating connection, okay? And this is where we talk about within the pie area. The last one was mobility. That mobility is how we create that energizing space, okay? So creating energizing space by utilizing mobility. Within creating connection, okay, what we do with ourselves and others, that's the personal space and intimate space, okay? And this is where some of the things that we can do. First of all, we're going to talk about that personal space, creating connection with ourselves first. This is where you may have heard a lot of this stuff, but we hear it, but are you actually doing it is what I want to ask you today. Are we breathing? Are we using mindfulness practices? Are we maybe meditation? How about healthy coping activities like reading, walking? I have here occasionally saving the universe from aliens. That's my video game justification. But here's the key, all right, is that anything that we do, great. If it works for you and it helps connect with yourself, even if it's going for a walk out in nature, do it. But it's within moderation. In other words, if it controls you, then it's not a healthy coping mechanism. If you are in control of it, that's a totally different story. So that's great. If you're saving the universe from aliens, go for it. But if it's 10 hours later and you got your kid going, Daddy, 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 all right, and you're like, oh, yeah, what was that? Maybe it's time to put the controller down and spend some time. Maybe that's now got a control of you. Maybe you went from a glass of wine a week to, it's the pandemic, I'll have a glass of wine a day, to now it's like, oh, well, maybe I am having a bottle a day or whatever. That's controlling you. And you don't want anything to be controlled. And otherwise, it's going to wreck and break your routine and normalcy that you're trying so hard to create. And that, of course, is where we get into those areas like addictions. Okay. Those are areas where even with creating connections with ourselves, they're ultimately goals. When we do things like meditation, deep intentional breathing, they are to help self-regulate us. By helping to self-regulate us, hey, maybe that's one of the keys to, instead of arguing and fighting and getting into arguments with my partner, I can stay calm, relaxed, and caring. And then be able to talk to my partner instead of going, well, you did this and you didn't know. Hey, I'm just wondering, can we talk? I'm feeling a little bit concerned with what's happening and where our relationship is at. I'm just wondering, can we have some time to talk? Wow, what a different way to present, in a calm, caring way rather than a reactionary way, going in a proactive way than a reactive way. It's so powerful when we're able to capture those things. Doesn't mean we don't have intense conversations, but we can at least do it within honor and within a calmness that maybe we haven't experienced for a while. Okay. Out of that, just kind of move on here. This is a little video infographic I just made a few months ago, but it just basically continues on with the concept of connection with ourselves and others, and linking these two before we move on to the other part, which is creating intimate space. Just because we've been asked to be socially distant does not mean we have to be socially isolated. Now, it didn't totally come up here, but it does say in that little bit down there, that's kind of hard to read in the iceberg or ice area, we are wired for connection, okay? And this is the key. We are wired for connection, and it's so important for us. Just because, again, we have been asked to be socially distant does not mean we have to be socially isolated. We need connection with ourselves and with others, okay? It's very important. So let's talk about that. We've talked about creating connections with myself individually. Now let's talk about creating connection with others, creating that intimate space, okay? It's very important to keep contacting your friends and coworkers, especially for those in challenging relationships or single. And I want to specifically, if you're in a challenging relationship, that compression that happens, who are your other contacts, your healthy contacts to be able to create relationship with, okay? If that relationship is a little bit estranged, You can't isolate yourself because that's not healthy. My heart, especially this year in the season we're in, absolutely also goes out to the singles. If you're a single individual, okay, yay, you've got your two people that can go into your home. Okay, they clarified that ruling last week. Um, well, that's not fun, especially during, this season that we're in right now. We're from a North American cultural tradition. We oftentimes invite people over, we go over to family. And a lot of that, of course, as you're aware, is not going to happen. Okay. Which is very sad. It's a loss. All right. Talk about grief and loss. Okay. But it's very important that we stay in contact. All right. We don't exist, you see, as individuals. And even if, depending on your understanding of what's known as introvert or extrovert, extroverts are the people who can be with 20 people and love life, all that kind of stuff. Introverts are people who gain strength by themselves. Okay. And out of that, even if you're an introvert, that means that you gain your strength by being by yourself. You still need to have that 1 to 3 close connections of intimate space with another person, partner or family members or friends. Okay. So out of that, it's important. This is where things like having family meals, having games, storytelling, music, making virtual and personal contacts is very important. And I know a lot of times that, one of the big chats is about the whole, screen fatigue. Okay. It's legitimate. People are struggling with it, but it's better than nothing. It's better than what we had even 20 years ago with technology, with where it was at and where it's at today. We're able to do these kind of meetings now virtually, which is at least better than nothing. Okay. So just a different perspective just to consider when we're getting tired or frustrated with not being able to fully connect with our family members. Okay. It's important to keep contacting your friends and coworkers. And as the slide says here, connection prevents isolation. You want another key to know how to not feel stuck, how to deal with your anxiety and depression? It's needing to be able to have connection in order to prevent isolation. Okay. Um, so really out of that, it's asking, what have you been doing, okay, to develop intimate space during these various different lockdowns during the pandemic series? Are you doing Zoom calls? Maybe just phone calls. Sometimes it's nice just to have a phone call and not have to worry about a face-to-face interaction. I've been encouraging, especially to those who are students. Man, students have been so isolated. They're at home all day. They're doing studies all day. They're doing their virtual online all day. And that's it. I go to bed. Can't even see my friends. I've been encouraging and getting some good feedback, for example, whether it's in a work situation or whether it is in a student situation, to just even have the phone on, just have a buddy or two, and just, you don't even have to talk. Just know that someone is there. Another presence is available in case you need to talk or ask a question or chat during a break. Has actually significantly lowered that depression and anxiety for some individuals. So just some ideas if you haven't been incorporating that. Other people within the work world, they're not necessarily doing Zoom to communicate face to face, but coworkers are just having Zoom on, or whatever media platform you're using, to be able, such as this one, GoToMeetings, in order to be able to just know that there's someone else there. It's just like being in the office space. It's a similar but different, but it's the difference between falling into depression or staying mentally and emotionally healthy. Okay, so just some ideas for consideration. So wrapping it up, and I'm just going to read this long sentence here. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a talker and I love my run-on sentences. When we intentionally apply all 3 slices of pie into our life, we allow routine and predictability, mobility and connection with ourselves and others, which allows us to create flexible normalcy, being flexible in our daily lives, at work and at home, no matter what are sudden changes or uncertainties that come up our way. So I just have an infographic here. This will be, I'm not sure how BILD wants to do this, but I sent them the JPEG for this. So you're more than welcome, however it's decided to be transferred, to keep this for yourself, share it with others. It's just the recipe for creating space using the power of Pi, creating personal space in my own life, creating intimate space with my family and relationships, subdividing that into space, which includes my partner, children, relatives, friends, creating energizing space in my career. I'm going to have to add home, but career and home. And how do we create it? Again, these are the key factors. Create routine and predictability. Create with creating a schedule, your calendar. Create mobility. Start by standing up and taking 2 steps forward. 3, create connection. Just because you need to be socially distant does not mean you have to be socially isolated.